Hey AI legends, welcome to Future of Zod's Roundtable, where experts from SaaS industry discuss how generative AI will change product and design strategy in the coming years. In today's virtual meetup, we have experienced product managers and designers sharing their insights about how far we are from having interfaceless user journeys. Let's dive in.
You want to go for it?
Sure. Hey all. I'm Abhi Abhishek. I work as a product manager now. I used to be a product designer before this. I work at this company called NeoCub, which makes SaaS software for public safety market. So police, fire departments, 911 departments, and stuff like that. So that sort of not like the cutting edge market, but everybody wants AI. That's coming. Everybody wants it from a business side of it to improve processes. For the last couple of years, I've actually been doing a couple of AI projects at the company. We recently launched an AI product at the company at the beginning of last month, which is pretty exciting. I led the whole concept to production version of it with my senior leader, who was the champion for bringing the product to market. Yeah, AI is taking over. I feel like it's pretty exciting and also nerve-wracking because you kind of try to find what your role is when AI is really good. It's not there yet. I will say that. As a person who built the product, I'm like, yeah, there's so much it could be better, and I have some strong ideas for where the future might be, and I would love to kind of get into that. But that's me, and that's kind of what I'm doing right
now. Thanks. Cool. Preeti, do you want to share a quick brief as well?
Hi everyone. Myself, Preeti Nayak, and I'm working as a product manager at a consulting firm located in Bangalore right now. So I have not gotten a chance to explore the field of AI. I also have the same, thoughts around like, what is my role right now as a product manager? If, I can just feed in an idea to the AI and it can give me a PRD, right? So that's where I am also. And today, first half of the day, Prashant and I were talking about it, and he happened to mention this discussion that is happening. So I thought it'll be good for me to join in and learn from other folks what everybody's doing and what everybody's thinking about AI, etc. So I'm also getting started with AI, trying to learn the basics and trying to figure out where I can fit in or how I can upskill or what kind of products in the AI field that might interest me, the domain, etc., the use cases. So that's where I am basically.
All right.
Thanks. Sandhya, we know you, but we still want to know more about you.
Hi, Sandhya here. So I work as a product manager at this company called Zenoti, which is a vertical SaaS. So I lead the fitness side of the product. It's a whole wellness product that caters to both spa salons. So the new vertical that we have launched is for fitness, and I sort of lead it. Basically build the product from scratch, and we now sort of onboarded an enterprise customer, and that's about on the work front. On the AI perspective, I mean, I'm a user of all the LLMs out there. Thanks to Prashant and this group, we discuss so much about AI every day in the group as well. So I try to explore as much as possible, and it makes my life simpler. I'm not going to say that it's a bane or a boon. I'm not getting into that conversation yet, but it has definitely made my life simpler. Be it PRD or be it even taking help on the design front. No offense at all here, but then it just at least helps me to unblock some things at the earliest, rather than waiting it out and getting seeking help from the other teams when I know that I will be blocked completely. So I use that as my little personal, I would like to call it as an assistant. So it literally helps me to keep me moving instead of me being stuck and or relying on the other teams. So that's how I see it. I don't see AI taking over the role completely, but it can act as a little agent that helps me to unblock wherever I am blocked. So that's how I see AI as for me, for myself, that is. That's all that I had.
All right.
Cool,
Thank
cool.
you.
Thanks. Kishore, feel free to give a quick brief before we begin. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm Kishore. I'm a UX researcher and also a designer. I work for a service-based company in the US, and we are building applications like voter registration, vaccination appointments, license issuance for state governments in the US. AI take is, yeah, it's an enabler for me because things that used to take 6 hours and 8 hours for me, now I'm able to do it in 2 hours because I don't have to, as a researcher, I have to do a lot of, desk job. And I have to read through a lot of articles, data, statistics. And now I have AI that filters me out and gives me, the one that is helpful for me because that's very relevant to what I'm exactly looking for rather than the Google search giving me hundreds and hundreds of articles. But the downside is that uh, sometimes teammates, asking a question directly at AI and taking that answer religiously and using that in research decks, that's the pain point. Like people forget that we have to verify it whether or not that's an actual factual information. When you don't do that, yeah, that's the pain point, and that's the pain point with human beings and not with AI, I would say. Yeah, very much.
Yeah, the hallucinations and I think the accuracy of inference making or fact check has always been a concern. And there is definitely there's a lot of background work going on in terms of how that can be improved. But yeah, it'll be great to see how this progresses over time.
Mm.
All right. So I had a question for today's discussion, right? And I'm sure Abhishek, we were able to share that with you, but probably we'll do that again once. We try to set a theme for the discussion, and for today, we wanted to ask like one of these questions, right? Like, how far actually are we from autonomous product or design experience? And would something like like a Tesla autonomous driving experience, right? Can we see some elements of that coming soon, or how far are we from that, right? So that was the theme for today's discussion. And wanted to share you guys, and probably even some pop culture references are fine because I think I have one to kind of spark a conversation, because it's great to analogy. So all the I think most of the movies have some kind of references to like a robo or that, a suit or Jarvis, play that co-pilot or that smart assistant, right? So just wanted to kick this off with this concept here, where I'm sure you're aware of this smart car of Nick Fury, which is helping him during that fight scene in Captain America. But yeah, I'll pause for a minute just to hear your thoughts.
So I guess I don't know. I feel like it's hard to answer the question like how far are we from robots is taking over, because I think there's so many things that go into it. Like, well, where is VC funding going? Which industries will grow faster than slower? AI is certainly the most overinvested industry right now, but I think the interesting thing about AI versus like crypto or any other revolution that came before it is AI is already able to generate revenues. Right. So you can put AI in your product, you can make revenue from it, which mostly investors and businesses love because you kind of got this magic thing, right? So you plug this widget and you're making money. It's kind of what most businesses want, as much as possible. But I think if you sort of take maybe a forward-looking view of some of this stuff. So I think I think I've listened to several conversations. There's a couple of really great ones I can link out. One of them is this guy who's, I think, the chief science officer at Microsoft now, who was the original founder of Google Docs. So phenomenal guy, really great interview to listen to. And he has some really off the wall ideas about where future of UX and like design and will head towards with AI in particular. And one of the things he said is kind of like opened up my mind, which a feeling I'd always had was, I think like today's technology is broken. And what I mean by that is there is an expectation that the technology exists, like somebody designed it, somebody created this whole UI, they have their own mental models, they have their own bias, they built this product, and then you come and meet it. Like if you're younger, which I think like for lots of people today who are younger, like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Like I can figure this out. I know how to make like Google Meets work. I know how to make WhatsApp work. If you move into like bigger technologies like Photoshop, it's like, yeah, it's like I'm a designer. I never really fully learned Photoshop because eventually by the time I was designing stuff, Figma had come out, Sketch had come out, which are like simpler versions of the same thing, right? So the central paradigm we live in today is like, hey, the technology exists, like really smart people made it. You figure out how to meet it wherever it's at. Right? Like you learn all the tips, the tools, what file menus to go to, what crop tool means. Like you go do all the study and learning, and then you come meet this technology. And the more you learn, the better you are. A really great artist wouldn't be a really great graphic designer because he didn't learn the technology, even though he knew the art, right? So I think what AI can promise is eventually you don't need, like English is the language. Like the interface is not a bunch of buttons and boxes, like you just talk to it. Right? You tell it what you want and it'll do it. So the one statement this guy said was like, okay, 10 years ago, if you had a phone and all it did was make phone calls and if you didn't have internet, you're like, it's fine. That makes sense. Today, if you have a phone and it doesn't have internet, the right word to use that it's broken. Like it doesn't work, right? And it's a function, it's a feature, but it's such a core feature that your words to describe it is it's broken now. So 10 years from now, if it doesn't have AI in it, your word for it is going to be it's broken, right? Like you're sort of moving in this sort of tangent where it's like a linear curve from, hey, the technology is complex, human, be smart, meet it, to technology is simpler and simpler and simpler. And eventually, I think AI will let us get to a point where the technology will configure itself in real time to come meet you. Right. So if I want to do something, the only thing I need is the intent of like, here is what I want to achieve. And that if the buttons will, like he goes as far as saying like UI design will kind of open up where you will design like hundreds of variations of something and each user can be like, I kind of want this thing, and it'll just swap itself out. Because pixels today are costly. You need an engineer, you need a developer, you need both of them to, sorry, a designer, you need both of them to build it in an interface, ship it, and every single one has salaries involved, has cost for infrastructure. AI is making, the fact that you can now generate an image with words means that AI is making some of that costs lesser. So the ability in the future for you to be like, I don't like this design. Can you give me like a Japanese minimalist design for your product? Can you give me like a mid-century modern architecture? Like all those are possible. I'm not saying everybody wants it. Like training on it is a nightmare, but we're sort of moving in that direction where the technology needs to get better and better to come meet you where you are versus you get better and better to meet the technology. Now, the reason I started this whole thing with technology is broken because like as young people, I don't think we pay attention. I don't know if you've ever seen like your parents or like older people try to figure out a new product. It's the worst thing in the world. Like they don't like, it's like, it's obvious. Why can't you figure it out? Because their mental models are different. The designer who made it is like 32 years old. Their mental model is very different. It's impossible for us to ever be 100%, and AI sort of allows for that. So when will it get fully automated? When it can serve every person's needs, wherever they are, whichever context. And that really means there is no human involved in making the end decision. The human's involved much earlier in the loop, where they're figuring out all the configurations that could possibly exist, and then setting a bunch of structures so the AI can run on its own. We are not anywhere close to that yet because of the hallucinations and all that stuff. But I know I said a lot, but I'll stop and we can talk.
No, actually, the reason why I wanted to kind of interrupt here was to point out one of the discussions true, Sandhya. I'm sure you remember in one of our early conversations was that right now we are at like a layer where the automation is happening, but we are talking about the meta layer where we understand how the variations would have been already created and how can we kind of strategize which variation or which journey should be kind of rendered to different users. So we are not kind of sitting and designing all those variations because creating those designs is no more like a mode for a designer. AI is doing the redundant task. So how could the experiences be kind of uh, 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 either they are personalized or there are some elements to know that which kind of user is using your app and kind of tailor the experience according to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like solutions are always sort of like, in retrospect, you can look at a solution and you can be like, yeah, there was no other way. The problem maybe could have been solved. That's why this became the solution. Because if you sort of go on the path of like infinite customization, right? So like it's still, you might say AI will give me 1,000 variations. I know I've had this presentation where it's like, I'm gonna click a button and I get 1,000 versions of a UI. But the problem is there is like some person in the market who is not gonna want it, right? Like it's impossible. So I feel like the true maybe direction of AI, that sort of with the chatbot stuff it's taking, is like there is no interface, right? Like the interface is something where you can talk to it, right? Like if it's like, hey, I need to book an appointment with somebody, and today I need to go get a Google account, I need to go to the calendar tool, I need to create an event, like all these are clicks, buttons, and all these things I'm doing. But what if I could just tell my assistant to go do it, and it's going to talk to your assistant, and they will, like, the tools all exist, they will meld more and more into the background, so the human's not the one touching them. And we are not there yet because the AI is not sort of pervasive, right? Like each company has their own AI. The AIs don't talk to each other. It's sort of like the old like standards with like networking buses like 30 years to 20 years ago, where they exist, but they're all isolated. And I mean, eventually people will want them to come together because the opportunities are greater together. So do I need to learn how to use Google Meet of the future, or do I need to just be able to talk in English or my own language, right? That's another barrier. And tell my assistant to go tell some other assistant to do it. And again, this is maybe much further out than but I think they're interesting paradigms. Now they'll only work if there's enough of a market that wants it. Like people, I still like having more control over like UI, understanding this stuff. On some level, it makes me feel smarter that I can figure something out, right? If everything was a text box, then no fun. But I do feel like for many people, they might just be like, yeah, like if you're like an old person or whatever, it's much easier to talk to your computer than to like learn how the tool works. So that's, I think, where automation might go. And there are interesting, like, I think the world we live in is structured by Apple and iOS and all that, right? So the model of the world is you got to buy a phone. Apple makes more money the more phones that are bought. So it doesn't allow for another world where technology is everywhere. Like I can go to some kiosk in the middle and say, I can log in as my account and tell it to do something. Like I need my phone. That's how Apple makes money. So like there might be another company or another paradigm where like technology is not something I own, but something that exists and I interact with whenever I need it. It's ever available. Now, does that mean people don't want phones? We don't know yet, right? Like I like my phone, even if I don't need it, right? So there are these like competing forces where what do people want? What's possible? But the technology is already there for us to do some of that stuff. How fast will we get there really depends on like which company comes up with a revolutionary product that like everybody wants to get on.
I think when you mentioned interfaceless, there were like 2-3 people smiling and they wanted to share. Would you guys want to go for it?
Himanshu, you want to go?
Go for it, Sandhya.
I think it'd be nicer if you could bring in that angle. We discussed about it the other day.
Spotify, I guess Spotify was one of the topics in interfaceless design.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that, and then we also spoke about Uber and Ola. How you can sort of bring in the aspect of making it usable for elderly folks, kind of a thing.
Right. Like autonomous agents, basically, right now, for example, what we're using at work these days is to, as an employee, I don't have time to do HR stuff. And I want everything that like I would want, for example, raising a ticket to get my laptop replaced, for example, right? Or to get a parking or to apply for a leave spot at the office. I don't have to go through any of the interfaces to go and do this or talk to anybody. I can just tell it. It does the tool calls in the background, takes like 5 minutes or so, and does it everything for me, right? So we have reached there through our autonomous agents, but they're not that smart yet, as like they're still getting there, right? I think because everything is in same umbrella, like sort of a family, it's easy to do it. Like when you have a HR system integrated. But as Abhishek said, if there are like different people doing it, it gets difficult, and I think that's where like friction is there. Right? But with our company right now at ENI, we are doing something of that sort, but it's not efficient enough to be there yet, or to be smart enough to be doing so much of stuff at scale. So that's just my
I actually had
just a sec. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a follow-up question, Himanshu.
Yeah.
And this is a question for Himanshu and Kishok in terms of the UX and research angle, right?
Yeah.
When you guys mentioned that the agents are not smart today, however, the need for interfaces is also reducing because I don't want to learn how the app works because it's not like really productive for me. And at the same time, it is not a great use of time or ROI that you are sitting and designing all those experiences and then it is evolving over time. So you'd rather just render the answer than making the user go through a specific set of screens or steps, right? So the question in terms of design and research here is that, so is this like a wave or a pattern where there was a state where before the rich web applications, right, or rich internet applications, the RIA era, people were okay with a database like a view of everything to be kind of surfaced on the UI. But then the design kind of angle came in. Then how do we kind of converse with the users? How do we share the details in the most effective way? And the entire kind of design wave kind of kicked in, and all the processes, the psychology elements came into picture. But now this the end of that wave is where we are saying that we don't probably would not see the great productivity which we expect from agents, with the interfaces, and probably interface less could help. I mean, and tying back to Abhishek's point that, at some point of time, probably, I would want to step in and configure or customize more. So, I mean, autonomous driving is happening, but at any point of time, if I want to step in and take the wheel, I mean, take the wheel. So, is that pattern kind of evident here? And what's your thought on that?
It's too early right now. It's just salespeople trying to sell this off, I mean, in at least all these calls that I'm seeing, that it's just like too early. And they're trying to push a use case, which I don't know how well user researched it is, right? Like, I don't know the need for it. It's just a smart thing, something that cuts off time, saves cost and stuff like that. But maybe Kishore can tell us something. That's all I know, at least from what I've heard.
Yeah, I don't know if my answer is the right answer to your question, but so before we solve any problem, right, the problem should be worth solving. If you're solving something and if nobody is willing to pay for it, then no point in solving that.
Right.
So obviously AI is helping me. It's helping me to do a task that's much faster, but will I take the subscription and use it? But that's a very subjective topic that depends from use cases, users, industry, multiple factors. So considering all that and the idea that you're suggesting, interface-less user experience, right? Yeah, a lot of people could get benefit from that, but I don't understand the topic yet, like how interface-less UX can exist. It can exist to some extent, but there's always stuff like you want to go back and see what happened in the past. When you don't have an interface, that's when it gets difficult. You want to sit and listen to somebody telling you, hey, you did this, and when a voice tells you that, it's going to specific speed. Obviously, you can play it in 2x or 1.5x. That you can change that, but how accessible that is for everybody. And let's say you want to see what did you do 3 months before, 6 months before. Now with an interface, I can just scroll up and see. I have multiple ways to identify. I'm not sure if I'm going off topic. Okay.
No, I think
yeah.
you're
So yeah, I can just.
No, sorry, go on. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so I was saying, with user interface, I'm not saying this because I'm in the design part of the business. It's a genuine concern. With an interface, I can just go and see there are multiple visual indicators for me, right? I can see the date, I can see the time, I can see keywords from previous conversations, and I can easily filter things out. But when it comes to listening to an audio or some other way of finding out past information, I think that's going to be very difficult for me, at least.
I resonate with that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think the whole heuristic, UX heuristic about user freedom and control, I guess just something that, I don't know. Abhishek, do you have any thoughts about that? Sandhya, have you guys, like, what do you think about the user freedom and control? Like, okay, you can hear me and do something, but what if I don't want exactly that? Like, there are these nuances, right? In what I say, what I exactly want, and I want you to stop at some point. Like the transparency is not really there yet. And I don't know how to achieve that either, or think of how to achieve that.
I feel like
and
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. So I think we're at a level where AI can solve these problems and not those problems. So some of what I'm saying, of course, is like further down the line. So there's a bunch of things to figure out. So today I feel like AI can solve generation, classification, summarization problems, right? So I have a bunch of data set and I want to generate more, or I'm going to give you a little bit and I want you to elaborate on it. I have a lot of data and I want you to classify it. So I want you to take something and group things together on an automated sense. And then summarization, like I have a body of data and I want you to give me a concise version of it. And then most of these came about because of language analysis of like, there's a body of something and can you understand what's actually happening, right? So there is this really great talk by the CPO of Spotify, Gustav Stoderstein something, and he actually walks through how ChatGPT works, and it's not that complex. It's just interesting how it went from a probabilistic model to like an AI, right? And nobody can understand why, right? So it's like they're like, you gave it a little bit of data, it was stupid. They kept giving it more data, and at some point it could do arithmetic. And they're like, if you ask the guy, one of the guys, so Anthropic is a big AI company, the CEO is Dario. And he, in an interview, is like, this guy asks him, hey, how did that happen? And he's like, we don't know. Like, we don't know why at some data set, it started doing arithmetic, even though we didn't teach it arithmetic, right? So it's interesting where they've arrived. And I think somebody at OpenAI understands how to recreate it. But there are problems it can solve. So I truly like interfaceless UI is only possible when all of these problems can be solved and more simultaneously, and we're almost not there yet, right? You can only do summarization, generation, or classification today. So that's the business use cases too. Like if for the AI chatbot that'll give you like a support query, like you're going to ask it something, it's going to classify that into like you want to put a support ticket, and then it will like generate a ticket out of it. So it's like they've broken down the things it can do into problems it can solve. So we're kind of early in that matrix of like truly interfaceless UI, but I think we are heading in that direction. And I feel like the biggest indicator when we are there is when we have this thing called AI teammates, where there is an AI that can do parts or whole of a job function, right? And it might be like, I have a job. I think Sandhya, you were talking about like PRD writing, or maybe it was Preeti, right? So I want to write a PRD and I kind of know what I want to write, but I just need like a frame to start. So that's like a function of my job that AI will supplement or take over or help me with. But then increasingly, you might have entire job roles where you just have like, you spin up an AI tool that does the whole thing, right? So for example, One of our products is for HR, and we have this thing called virtual recruiter. So basically, you spin up this bot, and it'll go hunt in the market for candidates. And that was someone's job, right? Like it was someone's job, and AI does. It might not do a great job with it, but a human has to review it at the end of the day. Now, this guy called Gokul Rajaram, who was one of the original sort of CPP and PMs at Square, and now he's advisor to DoorDash. He had this really nice blog post where it's like, if you're thinking of an AI feature that doesn't in the future turn into an AI teammate, you're doing it wrong. Right. So your features have to be additive where they can replace a role function. And I know there is like this, of course, like this dichotomy of like, hey, are we replacing people and putting people out of jobs? And I think inevitably, like business drivers will push for that, because if I'm a business and I can press a button and get an AI bot that will do a function, which is cheaper, somewhat accurate, and like I don't have to give benefits, I might choose that 10% of the time or 5% of the time today. But then if my company is 1,000 people and I want to add 10,000 more people, I might kind of take a bulk of it and do it, where each person has their own assistant and they can do better stuff faster, right? So the other thing that's interesting in business terms is like, so before the AI revolution, the average revenue per employee most investors asked for was something like $200,000 in the US. So we had 100 employees, we made 10 million in revenue. So you could say each person sort of at 200, like 100,000, 200,000. Today, because there are 20 people company that are making 20 million in revenue because of AI boom, the average revenue per employee has gone up, right? Like investors are pushing for companies to have less employees and achieve more. That's why the AI boom is happening, because all the companies are like, we can do something with AI, but it's not proved itself out yet, right? Like nobody knows if the booms are like productivity gains are actually possible. It's just that there is a pressure because there's a few companies that are seeing it. And then that pressure is being transferred onto all the more established companies that have not yet seen it for them to go into that. So that pressure is what might create more of these AI teammates. Our entire class of companies where their role is not to build a feature, but to build a ground up product where AI is the feature. Like, and the other quote that I found pretty interesting was, AI is not a feature in your product is a feature in AI. Because it is like all encompassing, right? It's the magic computer that can do many things. And if you're saying, I'm going to charge you for feature A, B, C, and D, well, what if somebody comes up with a thing that does 1,000 things plus A, B, C, and D, right? So that's kind of where all of this, these are the pressures that are on PMs, designers to sort of build these products that get you there faster. But again, AI has not proved itself out. There's a lot of hype around it can do all these things. Let's go figure this out.
There was this interesting, a tweet which came up recently in the feed, and timely in terms of the conversation which we are trying to have. So I thought I'll just plug this in. I don't want to extend the conversation because we have had like a good 30-35 minute conversation around this, and then I already think I have a bunch of takeaways from this conversation, right? Like a bunch of ideas and concepts which we spoke about. Abhishek seems to be like an avid listener to podcasts, so 2-3 podcasts already on the list to listen. So feel free to kind of share those with the group so that we'll also be up to speed in terms of what we should actually listen to. But yeah, the user experience concern which you kind of spoke about is brought up in this. And I thought I'll just ask you guys to link this to what we are kind of discussing, right? In some closing thoughts for our discussion today.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. I don't know if you know this guy's backstory. It's fascinating. He built an app, sold it to Facebook, built the same app 5 years later, sold it to Discord. And really interesting guy.
Yeah.
He has, I think, $10,000 coaching session for 1 hour if you want to grow your product. So super, super interesting, dude. But I think going back to his comment, I think it's 100% right? So like if you're building, I think there is this really nice framework called the Kenpex 3X framework, where the stage of the product should decide the way you build it, right? So you're either your Explorer, which is a brand new product, you don't have anybody, you're trying to get more people, you're doing a bunch of experiments. Expand, which is you built a market, but you have not scaled it. Or Extract, so you've built a pretty great market. All you want to do is extract more money out of the market. And all companies are in one of these three spaces, right? So he's talking about a company that's like at the beginning where you're supposed to be experimenting and make it as easy as possible for someone to get in. And if you want, like, and I have contended with this, made mistakes lots of times where I'm like, oh, like I'm so smart, so I'm going to make it really intelligent. And no, the other person doesn't have no context on like what's the context, what's the background. So you kind of have to keep making it simpler and simpler and simpler and remove everything you don't need. It's much harder to cut features than build features in most products. Every company is like build more, but nobody's like cut things. So you kind of want to be build small and then scale up. So I think all of this is in that area of like, can you do one thing that the person cares about and you can kind of do that well versus doing 15 things that everybody wants without understanding like what your market is.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to hear others. Yeah, sorry. I feel like I monopolize the conversation sometimes.
The room will call you hippo going forward. Don't worry. Awesome. I will ask if there's any closing thoughts or questions from folks who wanted to share or ask, who didn't get a chance in between. Cool. All right. So we'll call it for today then. I think it was an amazing conversation. They say that unplanned stuff really works well, and I think this is great evidence for that. Yeah.
Just jumping on the call on at in no time. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody joining here, right? It's not about everyone having the knowledge. Also, the seeking for knowledge is equally important. So we have like a good spectrum of people. So it's good to network. So yeah, thanks for everyone to join.
Yeah, Abhishek, if you don't mind sharing some of those podcasts that you said at the start of the call, I don't really remember the Google one. The guy from Google, you said
Spotify. That was a Spotify guy. CPO Spotify.
That is Spotify CPO. The first one was Google one, if I'm not wrong, right?
He wrote the Google Docs, or he was a PM of Google Docs.
Right. So
if you Google like Spotify CPO, the conspiracy to keep AI complicated is the name of his talk. It's phenomenal. It's about an hour and a half, and it starts with the 3x3 matrix of how AI works, and then he goes through all the different things of like how they build ChatGPT, which is phenomenal. You can understand a lot about like how AI actually functions. And then the other guy, I keep forgetting his name. Let me see, Chief Science Officer, Microsoft, and then Lenny's podcast. Let me see if I can just find him quickly. Sam Shell, right? So this is the other guy. Yeah, Lenny's podcast is the one where he talked, and that's kind of where he talks about the future of it doesn't talk about user interface design as a future, but more like how if you meet a product and the product doesn't understand your intent, your word for it is it's broken. Right, so it's like it needs to meet you and I don't need to meet it, which I think is truly just from as human beings, that is the goal of all technology. Is like it understands you better than you need to go do some things to understand it. But again, it's all the businesses today that built the paradigm where website exists, and like Google makes money, then more website exists in the world, and you get to different pages. So the paradigms dictate the world we live in, and there might be new products that will change that paradigm. super interesting stuff. Like very smart people and really fun to listen to.
Yep. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for sharing
Awesome.
all of this with us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy to come back. Let me know.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
rest of your
Abhishek.
day.
Thank you, everybody.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.